All right, cool. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Great Expectations Community Meetup. Sorry for those technical difficulties. The November meetup, I got the date right on the slide this time, which is great. So go to the next slide. So the agenda, just going to go over the same with the project and community stats updates. Going to be introducing a new member of the team, Josh Zhang. And we have our product roadmap update. We have an update on the airflow operator. And then one of our community members, David Romano, is going to be presenting how to monitor data lake health status at scale, which I'm super excited about. All right, and then we'll wrap up and have time for questions. We're hiring, so there's a few positions still open: analytics engineer, software engineer, product manager, other front-end software engineer for cloud and open source. So we have positions open as well. So check out jobs.superinteractive.com. If you have any questions about positions, you can DM me or Don as well. Yeah. So next. All right. Updating the community stats. Next slide. So community continues to grow since the last time we've met. It has gone up 330. We're at 8,828. So we continue to grow, getting more new friends. Next. We are making some, we're gaining ground back on our PyPy downloads. We had like a huge spike, you could see in like May, and then it dipped down, and now we're getting that back up. The floor is getting higher. In the last month, we had 400,000 more downloads than the month previous, which is great. Next slide. My favorite slide. Thanks to the community for contributing and for supporting in Slack. We have some contributors here, and this is only over 3 weeks because we had a late October's event was late, so it's only been three weeks since. But thanks to Tommy Watts, Depop, DNTH. These are the GitHub memes always get me. Thanks for this bug fix on 6292. Thanks for the maintenance on Trino, for the addition for AWS Glue, and the adding that slash to expect column pair values to be set. Thanks to people who are supporting in Slack and answering questions. Like, this is huge for this. This is what makes our community great. So thanks to Kirill, to Alexi, to Veronica, Bogdan, Adasha, Ido, Alexander, David, Stefan, Joaquin, Christian, Venetius, Akash, Dan, Timmy, Brendan, Jose, Robin, and Juliana. Yeah, thanks to everyone. I think I saw some other people in here who have helped out a bunch. I think I saw a Ty in here who's done a bunch in Slack as well. So thanks everybody. All right, we'll go to the next slide. All right, so quick introduction. Josh Zhang. Sorry about that. Josh Zhang is joining us as the new director of DevRel. So you'll be seeing him around a bunch. Super excited to have him on the team. I'll let him just do a quick, Josh, if you want to do a quick introduction of yourself.
Oh, you're on mute, Josh.
It says you're unmuted, but nope, nothing. I'll do one for you if you can't get it on. Yeah, we'll come back to Josh. We'll swing back around. All right, Don, product roadmap update and Q&A.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So just anchoring our aspirations for great expectations. We want to be able to make this claim boldly and honestly that it's powerful and expressive. And after widespread adoption by data practitioners, the core APIs are robust, stable, and thoroughly tested, and it's easy to get started. We had a recent launch back at September 20th. James Campbell, our CTO, gave a great demo of data assistance in that recording. If you missed it, I encourage you to go back and watch it. It's really great. That's out there now. It's replaced the user configurable profiler in our getting started workflow. It supports multiple estimation methods, and there's really cool capabilities within the data assistant result that includes lots of nice plotting and stuff like that. So it's data assistants are still at the very beginning of their journey as a key component for Great Expectations. So we're very much interested in your feedback in terms of what you'd like to see happen as we continue to grow and evolve this feature. We're not actively working it right now. We're getting feedback and seeing how it lands within the community. But we do have a great backlog of ideas and future work around data assistance that we'll get to in the future. Our current focus is making it easier to get started. Some of these are more tactical things like improvements to the data context being a core object, central object within Great Expectations, with lots and lots of methods on it that is really your launch point or starting point for doing almost anything with Great Expectations. So improving the doc strings there and having more consistent saving behavior around how we manage different artifacts is one thing the team's focusing on. The other is in building out the data sources, the new data sources that Tal presented last month. We call them newfangled data sources. That is not the official name. We're going to come up with a much better name for that. But the idea is to make it easy to connect to data with 1 or 2 lines of code with a smooth progression into multi-batch workflows. Multi-batch workflows are going to become increasingly important to Great Expectations. And we've seen the first version of that with data assistants, where the results really shine when you're working with multiple batches within an asset. So it allows for better naming and metadata for batches and more addressable batch metrics, which hints at this being foundational work for the batch metric store, which it is. If you'd like to be part of this journey, we've got an end-to-end working example that should drop this week. And then we'll be looking to engage the community for feedback, showing them how it works for real, using Great Expectations in a notebook, and getting your feedback, seeing if it really is easier to use, if you're able to figure out how to connect to different data sources and stuff with the capabilities we have. Out of the box, we're going to initially launch with Pandas and Postgres support, thinking that they are 2 different but common data sources that our users currently spend a lot of time with the intent of then being able to quickly build it out once we've got validation on the approach to support all of the data sources currently supported with our current connectors. I think it's also critical here to point out that this feature is dropping totally in parallel with everything that we have in Great Expectations today. So anything that you do will continue to work. This sticks to our mantra that we established firmly at the beginning of this year around no breaking changes. Hopefully you've seen the team be very responsive should those ever occur. And we're going to continue that with this feature rollout. The other big focus for the team, and actually internally we've split the team that develops the open source product into 2 teams. The new team focused squarely on the developer experience. And for me, in my mind, this is done to support this claim that we put right on the front page, first sentence in greatexpectations.io, which is that it's a shared open standard for data quality. So what does that mean for it to be shared and open? One element of this is contributor PRs. If it's going to be shared and open, it has to be easy for you to contribute. You have to feel like you're getting a good level of service. I think of the contributor journey as someone who first is a passionate user of Great Expectations and is looking to make it better and has sacrificed some measure of their time, either during working hours or after working hours, to try to make the product better for all of us. And gosh, we sure owe it to them to honor that commitment and sacrifice that they've made in order to improve all of our lives. So we've got a point rotation going. Hopefully you've seen in GitHub a very quick response to any initial PR. We look to have that response well within 24 hours. And then merge within the week is with a big asterisk there. For little PRs, it can be done almost immediately. For big ones, sometimes it takes longer. And then often for more complicated PRs, there's a dialogue between the contributor and our engineering team that's trying to integrate it. And that also kind of throttles our velocity there. But generally, we're looking to merge within a week. Part of this is also to kind of tamp down on the number of outstanding PRs. So we've been trying to not only rapidly respond to new PRs, but also address there was about 15 or so in the backlog when we first spun up this new team. So we're working through that backlog. But one of the implications is we have an internal workflow here where we're going to respond to the PR. If there are changes needed from the contributor or engagement from the contributor, we're going to give them a couple of chances to respond, and then we're either going to assume the PR or close it. So if you've contributed a PR, let's say you're doing this on the weekends, and then a whole week passes before you're able to respond to any feedback on it, you may find your PR has been closed. We'll try not to do that, but it will happen. Please feel that you can reopen it and continue the conversation. It's only to help us better manage the incoming work. So you should have seen some impact from a better response to contributor PRs, and we've got the team in place to be able to sustain that commitment. The other big thing for improving developer experience is API documentation. So we want to create an API docs for Great Expectations that are consistent with the API docs that we love for other pandas libraries, like or for other Python libraries like pandas and SciPy. So this will include better doc strings, better examples, and version information within our API docs. Starkly, we don't really have any API docs right now. We have the legacy docs site that still gets a lot of traffic, but is quite out of date. And so this is really filling a big hole within our documentation estate, and it's well underway. So part of this is going to be improving the quality of the doc strings and stuff, and including examples within our API docs. Part of it too is with Python, by default, everything is public, which can make it very hard to improve a product, because anything that you ship ends up kind of being cast in concrete. So one of the opportunities we're taking with the API docs is to narrow the surface area of the API by annotating methods that we say are public. Public methods being ones that we'll maintain through our deprecation policy over a number of versions, and include really good deprecation warnings in the time where we do want to change or evolve those methods. The ones that are not part of the docs, that aren't marked with public API, it's open season. That's where we're going to take more liberties to be able to modify those methods to be able to make more meaningful improvements to the product. So the API documentation is going to be a key way of surfacing that. And there's kind of two technical things that we're working through right now. One is how to integrate Sphinx docs with Docusaurus, which is our current documentation system. If you are passionate about Sphinx and Docusaurus and have lots of experience in reading those things, let us know, because we're working through it right now. The other is a little extension to the generator to be able to recognize that public API moniker that we're introducing the doc strings, so that it's respected when we produce those docs. All of this is kind of leading to the idea of having an SDK for Great Expectations, which is a way to verifiably produce high quality components and integrations that can be contributed back to the community and enrich the product. And so when I think of like what the tenets are of a good SDK, it's got great API documentation with examples, which we're actively working on. It's got contributor guides. It's obvious in how to contribute components. We have a pretty good start with contributor guides, but there's a lot more depth that we could add around being able to do custom expectations, custom data assistance, and other defined points of extensibility like data sources within the platform. Automated tests and test environments. So one of the struggles we have right now, particularly when people contribute a new data source, like, oh, now Great Expectations works with ClickHouse. Great. That's wonderful. Like, we love that. We really, really love that. The challenge we have is like, okay, how do we now provision a ClickHouse environment to ensure that Great Expectations continues to work with ClickHouse and will always work with ClickHouse? And so that actually requires a fair bit of effort on our side right now to provision those resources and then integrate it into our CI, our continuous integration and deployment builds. So we're looking to right now, every new data source is sort of like a sacrificial effort on part of the team, and we really want to be able to adopt these things much more with less effort on our side, and just with more guarantees in terms of how Great Expectations is able to support that moving forward, which is part of what supports a well-defined publishing experience. So we've been making, also didn't mention in the slides, but we've been making big improvements to the expectations gallery and the great, the superconductive published expectations within that gallery. So we're going to continue to make investments there as a way of showcasing so much of the work that the community has done to support the product. Pause for questions. Otherwise, I'll monitor the chat if that works for you too. All right, we'll leave it there. Back to you, Kyle.
Cool. Let's not do that one yet.
Yeah, Josh, are you back?
Yeah, I think so. Can you?
Yeah, we hear you. Great.
Okay, great.
Yes. Go ahead,
yeah,
Josh. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. So my name's Josh. It's great to be here. Today is my second day here, but you know, I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you. You know, I am currently located in San Francisco. So first of all, if you're kind of in the Bay Area, you know, love to buy you coffee and hear you know what feedback you have for us about the community and what we can do better. But I'm also in our Slack, so you know, feel free to DM me, say hi. Love to meet all of you, and yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of me, and just really excited to be here, and looking forward to meeting all of you. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, Josh. Welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you on board. Yes. Yeah, it still filters out the clap. You have to say clap. Clap, clap, clap. All right. One more thing before David, I guess the slides didn't update, but Tal is just going to give a quick update on the Airflow operator.
Hey, so as many of you know, we've done we've had a really great collaboration with the astronomer team on the Airflow operator. We actually just launched a new version, announcement forthcoming. And I'm really excited to announce that we've transferred ownership of the repo of the operator to the astronomer team so that it can be maintained the way that the other Airflow and astronomer operators are maintained. And so we've got Benji Lempel here as well, who can talk a bit about that. But yeah, it's a really exciting thing. It's been a long time coming. And then as far as the change itself, the new updates to the operator will make the operator easier to use for new users to Great Expectations. It also adds some support to the default, building a default checkpoint that uses Open Lineage as well. So it does a whole bunch of really, really great things. Benji, do you want to add?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple things there. So yeah, we're really excited to support the Great Expectations operator here at Astronomer. Tal and I have been working together off and on for like almost a year now on this operator, and this is the second like big overhaul we've done on it. And I think it's gone from a very like experimental operator to like really a first-class operator in Airflow. Like all the data connections work like you'd expect. It's really easy to get things up and running with like a minimal project going. And it's got a really great integration with Open Lineage. So that was another thing that we looked at when we wanted to maintain this in our org was, we had this like really good Open Lineage integration on the Great Expectations end, and we wanted to make that really seamless with the operator as well. So now if you have an Open Lineage environment, and you run the Great Expectations operator, it should automatically collect all that lineage information for you. No more going through your action list and adding it to every single checkpoint.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks.
I mean, from our standpoint, this is super positive. Like, really appreciate the commitment from Astronomer to ensuring like a best-in-class integration experience with Great Expectations. And the collaboration's been great. So I'm looking forward to continuing that.
Awesome. Cool. Very exciting. Thanks for that update. We're going to move on to our last portion. We're going to introduce David Romano. He is a data scientist with Mediaset. I believe you're located in Milan, so benvenuto.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a couple more if you want. You know, como stai? And now I'm out. Actually,
Really
now
good.
I'm out. Yeah, bene. All right, thanks so much, David, for joining us. David recently wrote a great article about that was very well received, about how to monitor a data lake health and status at scale, which he's going to do a presentation on. There's also a repository with a hands-on demo with this, which we'll share also. So yeah, David, I'll let you take it away. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you. So I start sharing my screen.
Yes. Let's see.
Just a second, because I grant the permission.
Yeah, hopefully you don't crash like I just did at the beginning. I should knock on wood.
Okay. Let's try now. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Perfect. See.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
Perfect. So, hello everybody. My name is Davide. I'm a data scientist at Mediaset, and today I would like to share with you our experience, our company experience facing the data quality problem, and how we face the data quality problem with this presentation titled "How to Monitor Data Lake Health Status at Scale: Build a Data Quality Workflow with Great Expectations and Spark." So, before to start and presenting the actual data quality workflow that we built, I would like to present you Mediaset, which is our core business. So Mediaset is the leading private TV publisher in Italy and Spain, with 5 public networks and more than 30 free and paid theme channels. Mediaset last years decided to invest resources building a data lake to store all the data generated from users' interactions with their devices over the several platforms and services the company offers. So just to frame the situation that we are working with, the current data lake stores every day around 100 gigabytes of data. Inside the data lake, we put several types of data, like clickstreams, page views, video player interactions, and many others. And finally, inside the data lake, we store both raw data and processed data. So with the evolution of the data lake and the increasing volume of the data stored inside it and the number of people who daily query the data from the data lake, the necessity to keep the data lake health status under control began to rise. More specifically, we encountered 4 major critical points. So the first one, we would like to verify that the published mobile applications, smart TV applications, and web applications are correctly tracking all the events, and therefore all the data stored and correct are trustful. The second point is to extend the ETL pipelines unit test that we are currently implemented. The third one is to monitor that all the pipelines and all the services are up and running correctly. And finally, the last step is to try to detect the data drift or data degradation in datasets involved in our machine learning models. So in order to face the problem, what we implemented is the data quality workflow that I'm showing to you in this slide. So this is an overview of the architecture we implemented, which is composed by 5 main steps: the data quality suite development, the suite deployment, the data quality run, the data validation results analysis, and finally the data documentation. So let's start from the suite development. As I previously mentioned, inside the data lake, we stored both the raw data and the process data. So based on the suite that you want to start to develop, you extract a subset of data that could be raw data or process data, and you import and download it on your local machine. Then you build up your data quality development environment that is based and built on top of a Docker image. In detail, inside the Docker image, we put all the packages that we needed to start to build our expectation suites and our custom expectations. So we use Jupyter Notebook in order to develop our expectation suites. We obviously use Great Expectations, and we also use Spark as execution engine. Docker also supports us during the development of the custom expectations. In fact, you can import the Docker image inside your favorite IDE in order to run and to test your custom expectations running, for example, the function diagnosis. So after you set up your development environment and you completed to develop your expectation suites and your custom expectations, you are ready to publish all your material. So what it happens after a commit on the GitHub repository is basically a continuous integration pipeline that we built on AWS Code Pipeline that basically generate again the expectation suites that are contained inside the development environment, just to be sure that all the latest version and the updated version of the expectation suites are compiled and published in the S3 bucket. We also get the Python module that contains the custom expectations, and we also generate an up-to-date Great Expectations data documentation in a separate S3 bucket. So the next step is the third one, which is the data validation run. Here, it is the core part of the project. In fact, with Amazon EMR that combined with Airflow, which is the data orchestrator we use, we are capable to develop and schedule daily transformations and data quality routines. In fact, Amazon EMR is used on a daily basis for ETL jobs to transform data from raw data to process data. And we also use it for data quality jobs. As you can see from the plot, we get as input to the EMR job that is in charge to run the data quality jobs. We get as input the raw data or process data. It depends on the data set you want to evaluate. And we also get as input the expectation suite and the custom expectations that we previously developed and published via continuous integration pipeline. The output of this step is the data quality validation results that natively Great Expectations generate as a JSON file, but we decided to parse and to publish as a Parquet file. This is because the next step, the fourth one, which is the data validation results analysis, starts with the AWS Glue Data Catalog components that crawl the validation results that we previously generated, making the results queryable via Amazon Athena. Amazon Athena is the query engine that we choose to use inside Superset. For those of you who don't know what is Superset, this is an Apache software, so it is open source and free. And its core point, in my opinion, is its simplicity. So given the simplicity Superset provides, we were able to focus on the metrics and on the indexes that we would like to monitor and to control in order to evaluate the quality of our data, rather than building the best dashboard and plot as possible. Another important feature that Superset provides are the alerts and the reports. So in case of the quality alerts, we trigger, the alerts are triggered when an SQL condition is reached, sending a Slack notification to the final user. And also, we use the weekly or monthly quality reports in order to schedule and send to the final user a complete report that communicates results in a much more organized and clear way. So before to move to the last point, the fifth one, I would like to stop a little bit on the results analysis, and I would like to zoom in this part. So what I would like to share with you is an example of a superset dashboard that we implemented. What I'm showing to you here is the first two plots that we show in the main dashboard, data quality dashboard that we use. In particular, on the plot on the left, I show you what I'm showing to you is the data volumes, the last month data volumes related to the table we are checking in the example. And on the right, I plot and showed to you a donut. As you can see, in the donut is divided and split into several slices. Each slice represents the property and the platform and the related unsuccessful expectation we want to monitor. Okay, so thanks to EMR and Airflow, indeed, we were able to divide the table that we want to evaluate and to check into several subset of data divided by properties and platforms. This is super useful for the final users. In fact, as you can see from the donuts plot, we can separate our dataset into a list of slices, in this case, which represents the property and the related unsuccessful expectations. Also, on the left one, in the histogram, we show a stack of bars that represents the data volumes for each platform. So also in this case, we can monitor the general data volumes in order to check if everything is okay. But we also check the data volumes for each specific property we decided to monitor. The next plot I want to show you is a tabular one, and this is super important for us. This plot indeed represents the list of the columns and expectations type or expectation name that failed at least for one platform. For example, in the first column and in the first row, we see the column name. So in the first column, we track the principal column, so the subject of the check. In this case, the column that we are checking is named backend app name. The second column shows you the name of the expectations that we run on the first column name. So the expectation in this case is named expect multi-column backend app name composition. So in this case, we are checking that the custom expectation multi-column backend app name composition is running correctly on the column backend app name. The third column represents what we called a complementary column set. So complementary columns in this case is a list of all the columns that we use to evaluate the quality of the principal one. So in this case, in backend app name column case, we used channel, bit platform, OS version, and play request ID to evaluate the quality of the backend column. But a little note here, in this case, in the complementary column, we don't actually use all the columns that we list here to evaluate the quality of the principal one, but in fact, we add new complementary columns in the list based on what we need to see in the partial unexpected list. And we saw further information on the next slide. Finally, the last column represents the number of the properties and the platforms that where the expectation and the column failed at least once. And in this case, it counts the number of platforms that failed. So in this case, the backend app name, the check expect multi-column backend app name composition for the column backend app name failed for 10 platforms. So given the previous tables that I showed to you, it allows to the final users to filter the rest of the dashboard. And in this case, I show you what happens to the next plots if the users selected the pair column backend up name and the check expect multi-column backend up name composition, what we basically showed and so on the previous slide. So what I'm showing to you is that the first plot is a line plot that represents the percentage of unsuccessful records divided by each platform that we are tracking in the current dashboard for the current expectation suites for the last month. So this is super powerful because basically it allows you to keep track of trending, how consistent is the error during the time, and it basically helps you to see if there is somebody happens an unexpected spike on your data. So this is a super easy and super powerful tool to visualize how good your data is during a precise amount of time. So in this case, the last month. Finally, the last plot is the partial expected list that, as you previously mentioned, given the period of time that we are working with. So here I'm showing to you the singular date time, and also divided by the platforms and the properties that we use to divide our table data. We show in a traditional format that Great Expectations provides so a list of dictionaries, the list of the columns that we previously show. So as I previously mentioned, we are checking the backend up name, but we also use as a complementary columns the list that I provisioned to you inside the table that I previously showed. So here we list all the columns that we use in the selected expectation. And as I previously mentioned, we also selected a column named Play Request ID. This column, this specific column, is not useful for the check. We didn't use this column in order to evaluate in a better way the primary column, the backend up name, but we inserted it as a complementary column in order to copy paste the content of the column and allows to the final users to use this string to continue to analyze data in Athena, in Spark, or in a subset in Pandas. And this is, in my opinion, is a super powerful feature that we provide to the final users that can use not just the output of the Great Expectations, but also other features that it can use, get and use in other platforms. So back to the data quality workflow. The last step, the fifth one, is the data documentation. This step is in charge to publish the data documentation website that we previously generated with a Great Expectation, and we moved to S3 bucket with a continuous integration pipeline. And just to conclude, the data docs is the last step, but not for importance. In fact, in our case, the data docs allows us to share the expectations logic with the non-technical people, making it easier to discuss possible and future suites announcements. So before to conclude, I would like also to show to you a bonus slide. I call it bonus because on the article that we published, we didn't mention anything about it, but people on Great Expectations Slack channel and people inside Mediaset company asked me some interesting questions, and we already tried to face the problem that I'm mentioning. So here I report 3 top questions that I think is super interesting, which are: who is the developer of the expectations? Data engineers or analysts with some technical background? How do you know what to expect from the data if you are not a domain expert? And how to make the data quality workflow accessible to non-technical domain experts? So we tried to answer those questions implementing a process that we called data quality evaluation process. So the process is composed by 5 steps. The first one is called the suite design. So during this step, domain expert is in charge to design the expectation suite. But the expectation suite in this phase is just a design. So what we expect is to have or to compile a requirements document, which is wrote in natural language, that represents, like in software development, the information about the table that you want to cover with an expectation suite. So the list of the columns and what you expect to achieve from each column. Who is in charge to compile the requirements document? Basically, the domain expert. So it is the case maybe that you want to evaluate the quality of the data in a table that is used on a business intelligence layer, then maybe the domain expert should be a business analyst. Or if you want to evaluate a table that is the output of a transformation process, maybe it could be the case that the domain expert in that case is the ETL developer or the data engineer. So what we expect to generate from this step is a requirements document that collects a sort of rule of thumbs of what you expect from your data in natural language. So the next step is called requirements review. So here, great expectations experts, so people who actually know how to develop expectation suites and custom expectations, that could be data quality team or maybe just a developer, have to review the previously wrote requirements document, and it has to answer the question, are the requirements clear enough? If the answer is no, then you have to look back the document and you have to cycle inside this loop at least until you reach the answer yes to the question, are the requirements clear enough? Then if once the requirements are clear enough, you arrive at the third step, the suite development and scheduled run, which is basically the steps that we previously saw in the data quality workflow. But please notice a thing. Here, thanks to the steps number 1 and number 2, basically we reached a complete and exhaustive requirements document, which was compiled by a domain expert. So inside the document are listed all the information and all the requirements that a domain expert knows and expect from the data. And it is also reviewed. It was also reviewed by a great expectation expert. So a man who is in charge or is able to break down an expectation suite. So basically, starting from step number 3, people have just to write down code to evaluate the data related to the requirements document. So in the step number 3, we develop the suite, we schedule and run the data quality jobs, and then we arrive at the step number 4. So inside superset, we run validation analysis. Finally, the last step is the actual data quality evaluation that we call data health status. Please note that this is a vertical drill down. So this is a view of a singular table, but if you replicate this process for several tables, specifically for all your tables contained into your data lake covering your tech debt, basically what you achieve on the step number 5 is not just the data health status, but the data lake health status. So just to wrap up and complete the presentation, I would like to present you some reference and useful links, as Kyle previously mentioned. The presentation is based on the article that we publish on Towards Data Science. I leave here the link. And we also provide a companion GitHub repository that is public, in my opinion. Inside this repository, you can find a lot of useful information if you have just started to play and to work with great expectations. We try to insert inside it whatever we know and we understand from the package. We try to document everything with readmes, docstrings. We implemented examples of single, pair column and multi-column custom expectations, unit tests with diagnosis. We also included make files, Docker files, whatever you need to start to work with great expectations. and Spark. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, Davide. That was excellent. I love that bonus slide. Really, really, really good stuff. I mean, it's definitely, you know, how we imagine working with other stakeholders, and it's great to share. It's great to share that with other data engineers to help, you know, get other people on board with why Great Expectations is important and how it works with your other team.
Yeah,
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I had one. Just wondering about the selection process that you use for generating the samples that you use for creating the suites. You guys had like a random sample, or you use like recent data? How do you decide what to do there?
Yeah, right now we just get a random sample. This works good enough right now. We don't use a specific approach to get the subset just to generate the expectation suite, because what we expect is that this is indeed a sample that should statistically represent the final results. But as I previously mentioned, we work with a huge amount of data, and the properties constantly evolves and change during the time. So it could be maybe the case that during the months or years, we constantly evolve and update our suite and our custom expectations logics.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have, oh, okay. So have you found that the first two steps in your data quality pipeline have gone, one, how did they go at first? Did it take like a lot of revision cycles to move on to step 3? And then have you seen those teams be able to work more efficiently together as they've done more and more requirements together? Or is it still?
You mean the process, the data quality evaluation process?
Yeah, steps 1 and 2 in that slide.
Okay, so yeah, the loop is not easy, especially if you work with a domain expert, which is a non-technical person. You for sure know that Great Expectation is easy to use, yes, but inside Great Expectations, there are a lot of concepts and information that a technical person knows, and it tries to traduce the knowledge and information and the feature that Great Expectations provide to natural language and to some rules that he has to share with the domain expert, especially with the non-technical domain expert. So it is not an easy step, but I'm assuring you that if you can use a requirements document in order to build your expectation suites, the third step is super easy and super straightforward, because basically you arrive at the third step with a clear requirements document that may be in order to be achieved and to be closed and to be good enough to be developed, you have to work with the domain expert for at least, I don't know, 1 week or 2 weeks. But once you get the requirements document, you just have to code whatever is brought down inside the document. So in my opinion, this process right now is super useful. Based on my previous experience, when we didn't use this process, we basically started developing the expectation suites, but as we are maybe not domain experts of that specific table and the specific business logic contained inside that table, we started to ask people to constantly make phone calls to other people to ask, hey, I don't know, Marco, you know what's inside this table? You know what is the logic behind this column? Basically, because besides the basic check that you have to implement, like column is not null or it is a string or stuff like that. If you have to check specific logic, especially business logic behind a specific column, it's quite hard to understand what is the logic behind it if you don't work with the domain experts. And working with the requirements document is the perfect standard that allows you to speak with the non-technical people. So this is the first question. Sorry, you had also a second question, right?
I was just wondering if the process of getting the requirements document sorted out has gotten any smoother as time goes on, or if it's still early enough that it's kind of new to everyone, especially the domain experts, and working with the GX people and getting that sorted out.
So, sorry, you asked me if the document is fine also for people who don't know GX.
If the process of coming up with the requirements document is getting easier for people as time goes on, or if it has not really, you haven't really done enough yet to see if that's been the case.
No, we already applied it. So all the all the tables we covered with expectation suites have been covered with this loop, with this process. So right now, I think that it can work in our company. And so the review process, in my opinion, can fit our necessity right now.
Hey, David, this is great. Quick question also about this bonus slide here. How, especially to kind of get the company aligned on the process around step 1 and step 2, like how long do you think like that took, and what was like your biggest challenge to kind of getting company aligned around that, around this process?
For sure, the biggest problem here is to try to explain to the problem is in our case are represented by non-technical people. So the problem is to speak and to work with non-technical people, especially if people are super busy on their daily job, and you submit to this non-technical people requirements document, and you ask him, hey, can you help me to provide some information on what kind of check you want to achieve on this specific table? But once you well documented the entire process, and you make sure and you share with the non-technical people that the process, once you achieve a complete and exhaustive requirements document, non-technical people and domain experts works fine and happily on the requirements document. I know that the requirements document is a boring job. It's not super funny, but if you know to evaluate the quality of your data, and you want to assure that the data you are using on a daily task, then this is the job you have to accomplish. So this is how we work right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. So sorry, I know we're out of time, but just maybe a bit, if you can elaborate on like the kind of maybe the pushback from the non-technical folks. Is it they don't see the value of the process in general, or is it like they have trouble like articulating the requirements? What was like the specific hurdle there?
No, maybe Dan. They don't see the value. If they don't see the value, they basically don't want even to start to work and to write on the requirements document. But if you start working on the requirements document, and the document move to the second step, the requirements review, and the documents go back to the domain expert, then it means maybe that the document is too superficial. So the non-technical domain expert works on a too high level, and maybe during the suite design review, the technical people saw and found some mistake or some open point that it could be the case to be explored and to be much more clear in order to implement the best expectation suite as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. This is great.
All right. That about does it. Right on time at 1 o'clock my time. I know it's a little bit later for some people or earlier. Anyways, thanks so much everyone for coming. Thanks Davide for the presentation. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Go check out the resources that I gave for his link to the blog and to the repo. I'll make sure to have that stuff in Slack, and I'll also add this recording into Slack in the next couple days. All right, everyone, I'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you all. See ya.